Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Public Safety Committee meeting. It is March 10th at 6:01 p.m. calling this meeting to order, and let's take roll. Scott Mandel is here, Patty Kirby.
Here.
And Jeff Hartwick.
Here.
And we have a quorum. On to item 2. Absent any comments, we will approve the minutes from February. Unless I hear otherwise, minutes approved. Thank you. Item 3, chair update. So I have a few things to announce to everybody. I'm hoping that our new website will be up and running soon. I've been talking about this for a few months, and once it's up and running, we'll be able to advertise ourselves a little better. I want to put up all the motions we've done. We've actually done a lot of work. I'm proud of it. And I want to advertise that we're hiring. We could use 1 or 2 more public safety committee members, and that would be a good place to put it. Another announcement is this night seems to conflict with something called VANC, the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils. So a lot of people can't make it because their meeting starts at 6:30. So I'm going to come up with some alternatives and then offline discuss it with the rest of the committee, and we're going to pick another night, another time for next month, but I will let you know offline. We have a NPG for next week's board meeting for CERT kits. We're going to huddle up this weekend and get our ducks in a row and make a really good presentation for that. Our governor has announced something called Care Court, and that is kind of like what we've all been discussing with the Lanterman-Petrus Short Act modifications. It's a court-ordered, court-supervised 24-month care plan for people who are experiencing mental health issues.
Miguel, you never changed when the last time he was.
I'm muting that person. And so that will probably be on our agenda for next month. So far, it seems pretty promising. Also, the clerk has just approved a petition for circulation for a citywide homelessness and public encampment policy for interim housing, and it actually penalizes city workers in the pocketbook in their salaries if certain benchmarks are made or not met. So that's something to keep an eye out for. What else do I have? All of our motions from last month all passed. We were pretty busy at the last meeting, and thankfully the board passed all of them. Lastly, I'm waiting to hear back from the city attorney's office if we can take up the issue of the George Gascon recall. That's all I'm going to say about that right now until we hear from the city attorney as to how and if we can proceed. So now we're going to go to item number 4.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Can I ask, do you want to just kind of, just make a statement that our the budget committee passed our motion for the CERT team program supplies that we want to set up?
Yeah, I probably went through that a little too quickly and didn't explain. We have a neighborhood purpose grant that was heard by the budget committee, and they approved it, and it's going to the board next Wednesday. It's for CERT kits, where the Studio City Neighborhood Council will be funding 2 CERT kits. We'll have more details for that at the board meeting. It was also at our committee meeting and at the budget committee meeting. I can link to that for anyone from the public who has more interest in it. It's not really on our agenda tonight. We've discussed this quite a bit, and now it's going before the board. So please tune in next Wednesday and hear the presentation and show your support for a neighborhood purpose grant for CERT kits, community emergency response team kits. How's that? On that note, public comment on items that are not on our agenda. Repeat, not on our agenda. Raise your hand and you'll have 1 minute to talk about something under the jurisdiction of the Public Safety Committee that does not appear on our agenda tonight. And we have Tess. Go ahead, unmute yourself, Tess. It should work.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. Thank you guys for the work you do. I've interacted with many of you in Studio City. I'm a neighborhood council board member for the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council. We're immediately adjacent. We share borders and a lot of common problems. And I borrow lots of ideas from you guys because you're doing a really good job. And I've even told our Public Safety Committee, of which I am a committee member, that we should emulate what the Studio City Neighborhood Council Public Safety Committee does. So hopefully you'll be seeing more of that. And thank you, Scott, for recognizing the schedule conflict. I'm going to end up having to hop off so I can get on the bank call later. But I would like, please, for you to clarify or to repeat this citywide homelessness initiative that you mentioned, because it went so fast I didn't catch it. But mostly I just want to thank the committee. And I also want to mention something that came up yesterday in our Public Safety Committee meeting, which may be of interest to you, and that is a city lighting initiative. There's free utilitarian lighting that can be installed on wooden poles. Certain criteria have to be met, and I will forward that to the three Public Safety Committee members that you may wish to distribute to your constituents, because we're having some,
Thanks.
yeah, we have some.
Time's up.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Okay. Can you please clarify the homelessness item, Scott?
Yeah, what Tess asked about was, all I have is the news release. It says city clerk approves initiative ordinance petition for circulation, homelessness and public encampments. And it's a proposed ordinance that would require the city to establish and fund an interim housing plan for the city's homeless population within 3 years. I guess you can search it. All I have is the news release, but
Okay.
there will be it's certified for circulation for signatures. That's where it stands at the moment. I have no other information on that. We're still on public comment for non-agenda items. Anybody else want to raise their hand and comment on something that is not on tonight's agenda? Not seeing any hands raised. We're going to go on to item 5. Sean Smith, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good evening. Just real quick, I just start things off real quick. Jonathan, who a lot of you know, some of you personally, is of course back. He's seen back at Vaughn's. He was in Vaughn's today. I talked to one of the managers, Edgar, today from the Vaughn's. He's been coming in there causing some issues. He punched a female homeless lady in the face a couple of weeks ago, basically knocked her to the ground. She did, of course, however, I found out attack him first. I know both of them, so we're having issues. It's hard to make her a victim when she doesn't want to even talk to us. But we are going through some stuff with him. Of course, he's been released a couple of weeks ago. He's been seen by the neighbors close to the golf course and then throughout the different shopping centers. So about once or twice a week, I check to see if he's wanted. He has court dates coming up just for checking the probation, make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. I'll be checking on that. And then Kevin Duffner is doing a court lookup, just because some people think he has restraining orders from different things. Sometimes it actually gets hidden in the court documents, not hidden, but in a way that's very hard to find unless you have access to the court computers about what exactly the word is, the verbatim for his different, basically what he's not allowed to go to, where he's not allowed to be, what he's not allowed to say, that type of stuff. I need that wording pulled out so the LEPD will have a better understanding what exactly his restrictions are. I'm hoping to get that soon. And then I guess evidently he's been yelling at different people, maybe even threatening people at the Vaughn's. I'm having a meeting with the Vaughn's employees to say, I basically told him about his arrest record, what he's been found guilty of, the violent nature of it, and if he makes a threat to them, knowing that the threats are serious, but of course it's up to them to determine whether they're afraid for their lives or not for those threats. But that continues to be something. The people that live closer over to Fruitland, over by the what the people call the Hollywood Bowl parking lot, you see that the street across got cleaned up. I worked very closely with the Council District 4 And then different agencies like, some private entities like Pastor Stephanie and Luis Oliart. They went out there with different entities and offered tons of outreach, shelter and all that stuff, and tiny homes. Finally, a large number of the population there took the housing and then were housed, and then a massive cleanup was done. The street looks very clean today. There was citations written from us up to that point for basically ADA violations, blocking the sidewalk. Those go right to the city attorney's office for filing. Those take a while to get filed, but there was arrests made there for narcotic sales and other stuff. But the people that wanted the outreach were able to get it, and the ones that did not moved on. So that's a good thing to report so far this year, which is, very only a couple months into it. The Studio City area is down 12% in all total crime, 19% in violent crime, and 11% in property crime. So that's where we're at. And also the news said something about somebody walking around pretending they're ADT on the doors. And actually, it was on the news today. That gentleman came into the lobby today. He showed himself. He does work for ADT. I don't know what's going to be any follow-up from the news agency, but he did confirm he does work for ADT. So that's we just found out that a couple hours ago.
Great, thank you. Anyone from the public would like to ask Sean Smith a question, please raise your hand. And we have Ira Gold.
Hey, so the three strikes law still exists in California, although from what I understand, it's less stringent than it used to be, or maybe you have to be the crimes have to be I don't know, I guess higher caliber. With certain people like that individual you mentioned, who has been quite violent, does any of the things he's doing fall into the three strikes law? And if they do, is there a way that it's obviously not safe for this gentleman to be on the streets. He just is a repeat offender. What can be done? Thank you.
I would highly suggest contacting your district attorney's office. They're the ones that seek, what level they're going to go after or pursue a crime. LAPD arrest for a certain, let's just say we have a residential burglary, and it goes to the district attorney's office. There's been cases where they didn't feel that was appropriate and they drop it down to a trespassing, and then the city attorney's office handles misdemeanors. So, those, I would like to say, push those questions to your district attorney's office. He did what I would consider, pretty significant sexual assault about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. In the past, somebody might have seen some prison time. He actually did like county time for it. And then the last one, assault with a deadly weapon. Again, that would have been found guilty for that. Would have been a prison sentence. That's not what happened this time. So as far as the arrest, I can answer for that. As far as any prosecution stuff and stuff like that, I would have to say direct that to your district attorney's office, because once it leaves LAPD, that's it. We're not in any control of that. What I would like to see Mr. Ekman, not just for the public, for himself, get more help and be in custody longer. Yes, he does have some mental illness. He's a horrible alcoholic. I would like to see him get sober and get the help he needs for that. But more importantly, I'd like to see the general public safety go a lot higher in that area, and a lot of people not be afraid of him or walking in certain areas where they see him. So, but it's when a crime has occurred and we arrest and we present for filing for the district attorney's office, after that, it's out of our hands. So,
thank you.
yes, sir.
And we have Tess for your question. Go ahead, Tess.
Hi, thank you. So we share borders with Studio City, and I have a question for Senior Lead Officer Smith regarding how to best coordinate the agencies for cleanups. My community files all of the appropriate complaints with all of the appropriate agencies, including with the city, 311, Caltrans, and then LASA and LAPD help to coordinate. But when we're filing all of the proper complaints with the appropriate agencies, then coordination has to occur in order for cleanup to occur. Can I facilitate that further as a as a citizen, because what we're seeing is if a cleanup on city property occurs, then there's a migration to Caltrans state property and vice versa. And so unless it's done in coordination, it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. What can I do after having filed to better coordinate the deployment of these services? Any suggestions?
Thank you.
I would just say that's going to be a very hard struggle. I could say sometimes in certain areas, we're ready to do cleanups with both agencies. A perfect example is along the 170 freeway by the new mall around there, by Victory Boulevard, and one agency will just not show up for some reason. So it's not, the other agency is ready to go. So it's not like we're going to tell them not to go. I take what we can get. I do believe it's nice to have everything coordinated, but the state of California and the city of Los Angeles, along with the county, all working together all at once without any hitches, that's just a very hard thing to swing. I would love that there be a better system for that. I think that we need to involve mostly our council districts and some other people to get involved together to work it together. So far, like I know Council District 2, because I recently was in that. They have a very good relationship with the Caltrans people from the state. So they've been able to get some good cleanups together and then get the outreach out there beforehand and seeing whoever wants to help, and then as of the day of, showing up with more outreach and housing options for them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not seeing any more hands. Any committee members have a question, comment? Go ahead, Jeff.
Good evening, Officer Smith. One question about the Fruitland former encampment. There was this long white limousine, and that was over at Park and Ride. Then it moved over to Fruitland. Whatever happened to that? Was that ever moved away out of the area, or is it still present in the area? Thanks.
I know where it is.
Still says Mac's name on it.
He's parked in front of the DWP building on Ventura Boulevard, in between the two entrances from Arch. Arch makes that arch. He's in between them. He supposedly has a bed at one of the motels there, supplied to him. And the gentleman sometimes also stays inside the limo. I am waiting to verify that no one's sleeping inside that limo. The problem is right now, if anybody's occupying a vehicle as a dwelling to sleep in, it's not towable. He can get citations all day long for not paying the meter right there, but the vehicle cannot be towed per the city ordinance right now until that's lifted, if it's a chance that somebody could be living in it.
And there's nothing right now on the books for the city of LA that would prohibit someone from sleeping in their car in front of a residential house, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I'm sure you were aware of the zones that we used to have, the red, green zone, that went away with COVID. And, I would, of course, I'd like to see something like that again take place. It was very easy to show people the map and then direct them areas to go to. And then, of course, maybe get some safer parking lots for the people to park in. That would be a good option too.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ira, is your hand up from the previous question?
No, a new one.
Okay, wait, we have Maxwell Bengtson. Go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Hi, I'm so sorry that this is Joy Banks, and Maxwell's my son. I apologize. I've been trying to change his name to my name on the Zoom call. But my question is that I live on the condo on Riverside in Woodstead, and we literally have transients that have been living next to the sidewall right next to the 101 freeway. And my neighbors and I have decided to put manure there so that way they do not go there. So there was a cleanup a couple weeks ago. They literally came back the same day. So to prevent them from moving back there, we have just all decided we'll just put some manure there so that they don't live there anymore. We haven't seen anybody go there, any transients go there, because they've actually have trespassed there the chain link fence have now been open to anybody who'd like to go there. It says no trespassing, but apparently they don't know how to read, so they just decided to barge through and use that living space as their area. So we just got sick of it. We took matters into our own hands. They've been
Thank you, Joy. I'm sorry, your time's up.
sorry, but I just wanted to find out, how could we get that fixed? Do we have to call Caltrans?
You have to call your state Caltrans. Your local state assemblyman is Adrien Nazarian. You could call his office and see if they can assist you in getting that fixed.
Thanks, Sean. And Ira, what else did you have to ask?
Yeah, so just a heads up, the limo is there. It's been there for just over a week. There are people that are sleeping inside of it. I've seen too. And it currently does not have a rear passenger side wheel.
Great.
That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Ira. Not seeing any more hands. Officer Smith, thanks so much for your time. Do you have anything else to add, or we'll see?
No, I just as we're all coming out of the COVID, and everybody's, a lot more people are taking off their masks and stuff like that. So hopefully when crimes happen, we'll have less people with their masks on so we can identify more suspects. Please feel free to let me know if you see something. If you get any film footage of it, please send it to me. I would like to send that off to the officers that work your area. I try really hard to keep the same officers driving around and patrol night and day. So please, any information you can share with us. We have less and less officers out in the street constantly. We have a huge retirement thing going on right now. I haven't seen people retire this fast in a long time. So we need the public's help. We need to work together. So anything you can do to help out, I would highly appreciate it. And I just hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Moving on to item 6, I don't see any other public officials, so we're going to go to 7 regarding the National Night Out. This was discussed last month, and it was decided or determined that there would be an ad hoc committee, and outreach was going to help with the organization of National Night Out. I see Brandon's in the audience if you wanted to talk about that. We have lists of sort of items that we have stored at CBS at the SCNC office. We have some previous board members and committee members who have been involved in this before. And apparently it's a lot of work, and it's going to take some coordination. Public safety is not going to be able to handle this on our own. And that's really all I have to say about National Night Out until the ad hoc under outreach is established. If anyone from the public has a comment on that, raise your hand. I don't see any hands. If Brandon wants to talk about that for a moment, he's indisposed.
I'm right here.
There you are.
I wasn't aware we were doing an ad hoc for National Night Out. The thing was, Richard Niederberg had mentioned it to me that perhaps I should bring it up at outreach and look for volunteers. But
Okay.
from what I understand, it's going to be in August, so we have some time. We weren't discussing ad hoc for public National Night Out, but if you'd like us to, we could, or it could be a joint venture between us and public safety. I did not know that public safety usually takes the lead on it. So if you want it to be a joint venture, I don't have a problem with that.
Comment from 018, I believe that's Barry.
Yeah, I was just going to say we also need to investigate. The last time we did it, we had tables and tents, or the booths were all supplied by CD2. And if we're doing it at Demon or virtually almost anywhere now, we would be in CD4. So somebody probably needs to contact CD4 and see if they even have any of that stuff. I don't know if they do. And the other thing is, Krikorian's office actually might still loan us the stuff. because he still has part of Studio City, and many people in his part of Studio City would still be attending. So, I mean, it's worth checking out on both fronts. But we don't, in terms of our storage, we just have like 4 of those canopies, and we don't have tables per se, so we'd need to look into that. The things we really have are like, you know, the popcorn and snow cone machines and the half-size barrels for like putting drinks on ice in. So something to think about.
Thanks. Patty, go ahead. You have more experience than almost all of us in this area.
Unfortunately, since the Public Safety Committee is quite small, we don't have the talent to put on a large event this year unless the Outreach Committee steps up and the board steps up to help. And an ad hoc committee would be required, and a leader, someone to take it over. It's a lot of work and a lot of planning and some money involved. So we'd have to get some funds approved and first have the meeting and then get some funds approved. I can get CPAB to help out for sure. But CPAB helps out with all of the other areas in North Hollywood Division with their national night outs. Each neighborhood has a smaller, like a picnicky type of thing in the small parks. And maybe we just do that this year instead of a big event that we've done for the past several years. So just a thought, Brandon, if you want to put together the outreach people, I'll help. That's it.
Tess, tell us what you think about that.
Hi, I think National Night Out is a very good idea. We have a number of supplies, which while I can't bind our neighborhood council personally, I'm sure they wouldn't mind lending them to you. So if you want an inventory of what we have and might be able to share or lend, someone from your public safety committee could just let me know. And that's it.
Thanks.
Thanks for that. So I think what we're going to have to do is, although it's a few months away, I think we should get started on this soon. So some of us will speak offline and we'll try to get the ball rolling and maybe create like a flow chart, inventory of what we have, what we need, and more important, try to create a budget for what we think we're going to be spending and at least get lay the foundation for who's going to be doing what, when, where, and how. So let's move on. We're going to skip item 8, the update from CPAB, because we had Sean Smith to listen and Sherry's not here. And I think we're good to skip 8. And let's just move on to item 9. This is RFA. I'm going to read it and then we'll go, I'll get a second, then we'll go to public comment, and then we'll go to the committee. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, thank you, Ira, requests that Council Member Rahman designate the underpass at Coldwater Canyon Avenue 101 freeway as a special enforcement zone under LAMC section 41.18C2. We thank Council Member Rahman and the CD4 staff for their efforts in clearing out the homeless encampment at this underpass. The residents and businesses in proximity to the underpass can now breathe a sigh of relief, no longer living in fear, surrounded by criminal activity, trash, open air drug use, and a reduced quality of life. But once an area has been cleared, it is imperative to keep that location encampment free. Otherwise, the cycle of despair will only continue for the homeless and the adjacent residents and businesses. Until there is a citywide approach to the homeless crisis, the special enforcement designation of the Coldwater Canyon Avenue 101 freeway underpass is crucial. The underpass has been a public health and safety problem for 2 years now, marked by incessant drug dealing, illegal drug use, and fires. Breathing diesel fumes is also harmful to the health of those camping there. There is therefore ample evidence to support an enforcement designation resolution for a city council vote. Such a designation would prevent individuals from sitting, lying, sleeping, or storing, using, maintaining, or placing personal property or otherwise obstructing the public right-of-way of the underpass. If a special enforcement designation is not given, the LAPD will only able to cite as infractions violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act pursuant to Section 4118A1 and not for living in a tent at the underpass. To date, Councilmember Rahman has failed to designate any special enforcement zones, unlike council members in neighboring districts. It is now time for Councilmember Rahman to designate this underpass as a special enforcement zone. Outreach alone will not solve the problem for the service resistant, so a legal enforcement tool must also be an option. A designation will ensure that our residents, disabled persons, and children can safely travel through the underpass without obstruction. And there's a link to the 4118 ordinance. So this is a request for action. This is not a community impact statement. I need a second, and then we'll go to public comment.
Second.
Second, thank you. Let's go to 018. That's, I believe that's Barry. Go ahead, you have a minute.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, and I know you realize this, that this is really, this motion is passed by the board, is just going to be making a statement to her because she's never going to change her mind. She did not vote for this ordinance, and she publicly stated she did not support it at our last board meeting. So, I mean, it's just going to be a statement, and that's fine, but don't expect her to change her mind.
Thanks, Barry. Do we have any other public comment on this particular item, the 4118? I'm not seeing any raised hands. Would the committee like to talk or discuss this for a moment? Jeff, then Patty. Oh, Mike, did I miss you? Did you have your hand raised? Let's go back to Mike. I saw your hand. Do you don't have your hand up?
No, I do. I just
Oh.
figured it out.
Okay, great. You have 1 minute. Go ahead. Go
First
ahead.
committee, and I just think that statement was fantastic. We moved into the neighborhood in December and been seeing this all go on, and I think the statement is dead on. And I know the council person may not stand behind it, but that I think the statement needs to be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else from the public? I'm not seeing any hands from the public, so let's go to the committee. We'll just go Patty and then Jeff.
I just want to reiterate what Barry said. I think that the council member Rahman will not follow that, but it will give attention to that site, and it'll be on their radar, but she will not follow that suggestion. We all know that. So
Oops.
that's it.
Jeff?
Yeah, I would just say that our role is that of an advisory body, and we are to really reflect the interests of the stakeholders at large. And we've had so many meetings, including the last board meeting, where people were pleading with the neighborhood council and Councilmember Rahman to do something about the crime around Fruitland, Coldwater, and these other places. So I really do think it's incumbent upon us as a neighborhood council, even though the council member may not feel this way, I think we need to reflect the voice of the majority of the community here, which has been suffering from drug dealing, crime, et cetera, which has plagued these areas for quite some time. And the situation at Coldwater has been going on it was pre-pandemic, and only recently has it actually been cleared out. So I understand Barry's point and Patty's, but we have to represent our stakeholders, and the vast majority would agree with this particular request for action. The other thing is that if other council members in neighboring jurisdictions are designated these special enforcement zones. And Raman's district doesn't have them. What's going to happen? There's going to be a migration from those areas of resistance to the areas of least resistance. So perhaps this would help Councilmember Rahman to see the light. So that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Jeff. I want to sort of reiterate what pretty much everyone has already said. I've met personally now with quite a few stakeholders for coffee where they've expressed support for this and sort of dismay that Councilmember Rahman will not designate a single spot in all of Studio City or Council District 4 as a special enforcement zone where there's no camping, when, as Jeff said, the adjacent council districts have all done such. And there was a Zoom meeting with some of the stakeholders who live in proximity to this particular encampment. And some of them were in tears, pleading with CD4 staff to do something. They were crying. And it was heartbreaking to hear their story and being told there's nothing that they can do. And this is something we can do. And it at least gets the word out that we're trying and lets the stakeholders know where Councilmember Rahman stands on this. She votes no on every single council resolution, even when they're in other council districts. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 12, 13, 14, and 15 all had resolutions declaring, designating special enforcement zones. And she has voted no on all of those as well. And I think it's important that the stakeholders know exactly where she stands, and perhaps she may change her tune or perhaps not. And that this alludes back to that that petition that's been certified for signatures that will create a citywide homeless encampment enforcement mechanism. Is Barry, is your hand still up from the previous question?
No, I just wanted to briefly add that I think this is still a good idea, because just like with Fruitland, she got a lot of email and public voicing on it, and they took action. So this is the same kind of thing where she may take action even though she doesn't believe in that ordinance. So it can only be good. I think it will prod her into taking action under there, even if she doesn't, she won't take the action for the ordinance. So it's good.
Thanks, Barry. Randy, do you have something to add?
I think a lot of it was already said, but I would simply say that in this case, just to echo what Jeff said, our job is to advise. Whether or not the council member decides to take our advice or not, that is on the council member. But certainly if our job is to, and it is, to echo the sentiment of stakeholders, then I think not only really do we have an obligation to echo that to the council member, we should really try to push. And it's very rare actually that I jump into a committee meeting and just say, I hope you all vote for this. But I do, because I think that we have seen on Twitter remarks from some advocates saying we should tell those that are unhoused to move into the council member Rahman's district, in part because of a lack of, or a different philosophy, I should say, in terms of 4118. And I think we should at least join other neighborhood councils in her district that are saying, no, there are some areas that we should declare as sensitive areas that camping should not be tolerated. So thank you for bringing this issue forward. And I hope that this will come forward to the board for our meeting next week.
Thanks, Randy. Patty, did you have one last comment before?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm wondering if we should put a phrase in there about the fear of other districts sending their folks over to ours because we don't have that ordinance in place. Should we add something to that? question?
It's pretty long. I don't know if we want to add any more words. Just on word count. I think it's pretty solid. If you guys want to add a line of having adjacent districts that have 4118 zones.
Just, that it's just a fear of our community that will be inundated with the pushover from other council districts. I don't know.
Because even inside the districts that have the 4118s, it's not the whole district. It's just certain particular locations, like council member Kokorian did 3 resolutions. I believe it was about 50 plus specific locations. And the locations are pretty much, for the most part, in good shape, but the people can move just a few yards to be out of them. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good point. I don't know if it needs to be in this. I would be inclined just to leave it and hope the board doesn't vote it down or water it down. What do you think, Jeff?
I think their argument would be it's conjecture at this point because there's no data either way to support it, although we've seen
That's a good point.
Twitter traffic encouraging people to do so. So I think it's probably best to just leave it off right now. It's kind of factual the way it's construed, the motion. So I think we should stick to kind of how things are.
Okay, great. Let's vote. Scott Mandel, yes. Patty Kirby
Yes.
and Jeff Hartwick.
Yes.
Motion passes. This will be presented to the board next week. Please come to the board meeting and make public comment, show your support. The agenda will be posted for the board meeting shortly. I don't mean shortly tonight. I mean within a couple of days and certainly before the 72-hour notice. We can use all the public comment we can get for supporting these motions. And on that note, we blasted through this pretty quick. It's 6:44. I have nothing more to say other than I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
That's great. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks for all your participation, public and committee. And we'll see you all next Wednesday at the board meeting. Please come voice your support. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and thank you for participating. And good night.
Thanks, Scott. Great work.
You all. Thanks. Bye.